on if you so wish. I'm going to be speaking to Vimala Ariyan, who is Managing Director at the Southern African Institute of Learning. She joins me now on the line. Vimala, good evening to you. I'm so sorry. Good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate your time.
Good evening, Aubrey. Thank you for having me.
So we are going to be talking about. Are you on speakerphone, perhaps, Vimala?
Yes, I am.
I'm getting a lot of sort of echo and feedback. If you don't mind, just
Okay, I have.
All right, there you go. So we're going to talk about the education of women, especially in the rural areas. But I want to start off by what may seem to be an unrelated question to what you and I are going to be talking about. Why, Vimala, is it important for us to be talking about the education of women, but more specifically in the rural areas? Why is that such an important issue? I say this because we've got an educational department in this country. We've got rules and laws about people having a right to education. Why then would we isolate an issue about women, and particularly women in the rural areas?
Well, women make up 2/3 of our illiterate population, and the vast majority of these women are living in rural areas. And gender equality exists largely amongst the poor. Hence, you find that the people with lower incomes have a considerable lesser opportunity towards getting education than those that are living in the urban areas. So it is actually a struggle for them to get access to learning. And that's why it's an area I think all of us need to focus on so that we can pull these women out and give them more opportunities.
There seems to be a suggestion that if women are educated, particularly those women who don't have access and agency, as many of the women who live in the rural areas, that education is somehow going to lift them up out of this undesirable situation.
It is, because education is every human being's right, and it is a very, very important component for empowering women. And it is a key element, it will play a key role in supporting the households and communities. So giving them access to learning will allow them to learn basic things, learn how to look after the families well, learn how to bring an income into the household, learn how to probably do agricultural farming better. And these skills will not only be a benefit to the family, but will also be a benefit to the economy of the community.
Sure. So there is, I suppose, a particular status quo in these areas, in these rural areas where a large percentage of the women are uneducated and therefore are limited in their agency. What is the effect of that? What is the effect of women not being educated and not having the kind of agency that would be brought about by education?
See, rural girls from a very, very extremely early age are a source of labor in the families. So they basically focus on collecting water and fuel, caring for their children and processing food. And a lot of women actually take part in informal agricultural production. So although they are involved in some aspects of the family life, they're not involved in there's no emphasis or opportunity given to them. And there's very, very poor infrastructure and discriminating community cultures that prevent them from participating in beautiful employment opportunities, in educational opportunities. So as a result, these women do not have opportunities that can lift them and provide them with adequate knowledge to uplift the family and the community.
I would imagine, Vimala, that part of what the challenge is going to be, as you've just spoken about those discriminatory cultural practices, is for those that are helping the women in those areas get a certain level of education, is to make them conscious of those discriminatory practices. Is that part of it?
Yes, it is. And I think we all have a role to play there. large corporations do a lot of CSI initiatives, and I think these CSI initiatives should focus in the rural areas because that's where we need it more. So I think enlightening these women on the ways of the world will help to take some of the discrimination away and will also empower them, in the ways of the world. So they will have the knowledge on how to work and generate an income, how to generate a sustainable income so that they can take care of their families. And, that would definitely benefit the economy as well. So, yes, I think the private as well as the public sector have a big role to play in making sure that whatever opportunity, resources, funding that they have can go towards developing these women.
So the kind of education that you give to these women, is it the kind of education that only equips them on what to do in terms of maybe how to work a computer or maybe how to work some form of technology, or does it go into a deeper and wider form of, as you say, getting these women to understand the way of the world? In other words, my question is, in a roundabout way, is I would imagine that these women are told that for eons you have been brought up in this kind of cultural setting. You know the rules. You need to understand that this is how things work. You know that the chief in this particular area is very, very strict in terms of the way that he wants the laws to be applied. What is the nature of your education? Is it only in terms of making them know how to do things at a utilitarian level, or does it go a little bit deeper into making them understand that the world is a changing place? There are changing power dynamics and changing gender roles. Is that part of the education?
Oh, yes, definitely. We definitely want to go deeper. Women need to be trained on income generation. And if women in the rural areas are doing, for example, agricultural farming, let's give them training on how to do formal and better agricultural farming. So if you give them the skills to do better agricultural farming, they will produce better crops.
Yeah.
And I think if we couple that with entrepreneurship skills, they not only will have good crops, but they can also develop successful businesses as well. So I think teaching them about education, family welfare, nutritious eating habits will change the lives of their future generations. So I think emphasizing on developing entrepreneurship skills will make sure that they get a sustainable income over a long period.
I think about that sustainable income, Vimala, in a setting and a context that is very patriarchal, that is very conservative and maybe traditional.
Yes.
To what extent does the education of these women, we're going to go into exactly what it is that you teach them, but to what extent does the education of these women empower them to own their newly found economic power?
I think we could, right now, the way things operate within the rural areas is that you find social norms and community culture dictate and control women, making them very submissive and dependent on their male counterparts. I think giving them skills would give them the confidence and would give them opportunity to make better decisions. For example, instead of having children very early in life, women would now be educated to know that they can have children later and have fewer children. So this would also help in giving them opportunity to focus on themselves and develop themselves. And having fewer children would mean focusing and giving opportunity to fewer children in the household. So you can see the ripple effect of education. Not only will the women benefit, but it's going to ensure that the generations to come will also have better benefits and better opportunity.
My sense, though, Vimala, is that the women who will see the virtue and the beauty and the truth of what you've just explained to me are not the problem. my sense is that you do get a bit of backlash by those who hold power in those environments. Talk to me about that.
Oh, yes.
Is there some sort of backlash? Is there some sort of pushback from those who may feel that this newly found education by women in rural areas is threatening the status quo, as it were?
I think there'll always be that. That because, the community culture has been established. And it will take generations, it will take years before we can get rid of those perceptions. But I think when we decide to eventually roll out programs, development programs in these communities, we need to do an orientation or an induction before the program could actually be launched on preparing the woman on the ways of the world.
Yep.
And what is actually going on out there in the world. And I think we also need to be enlightened on the community culture and the way it is currently and how damaging it is to a woman. So I think lack of knowledge on that, because it's been going on from one generation to the other and they've just been following suit, lack of knowledge on that is preventing them from actually moving forward. So I think enlightening them is very important. Making them aware of their position is important, and focusing on taking them from there into, the way we want them to be is going to have to be something we need to train them on.
There's a lot of controversy at the moment with regards to the proposed rural areas bill. I think, a rural areas bill. And there has been a lot of pushback from organizations such as COSATU in that the proposed sort of legal system, the parallel legal system where rural traditional leaders will have their own sort of legal judicial system that is independent of the constitutional legal system. There's a lot of controversy around that. Is that part of what you educate in?
I think we want to commemorate the 1956 March, and I think bringing that to light will make all these political groups aware that these women need help. And the 1956 March of the women to the Union buildings in Pretoria protesting against legislation aimed at them is something we at SAIL is going to use to enlighten and make aware the plight of women. So much as we're getting resistance, there is also people who want to assist.
Yeah.
There are programs currently being run in rural areas that are successful. So I think focusing on the positives of it and trying to focus and get these women, onto learning platforms is a way of dealing with the political issues in the country. So we at SAIL actually have come up with a beautiful program that we want to run with women, with 1,956 women from the rural areas, where we want to train them on entrepreneurship skills.
Yeah.
The reason for that is we want to, develop them so that they can maintain sustainable households.
Give me a practical example of what that entails, and maybe some of the other programs that you've got in place. What practically do you teach these women?
Okay, we're going to start right from the ideation stage. How to start a business, to get a business idea, and to develop that idea. We're going to teach them basic leadership development skills, how to develop a business plan, communication skills, finance and budgeting, understanding the operational issues of running a business, and then giving them innovation. By that I mean trying to bring technology into the rural areas. We want to do this as in-learning, mobile learning, and being a digital platform. We've got to make sure that these women are able to handle technology, internet, facilities, infrastructure, and all of that. So it's going to entail quite a bit of getting together resources that currently may not be there. So our programs are going to be quite holistic in starting and developing a business online. We're going to do all the training online.
And you speak of the future. Has anything been done thus far, Vimala? Has anything been done at this point that you can point to as a good story to tell, as it were?
Yes, we did. A couple of years back, we trained 150 women on early childhood development in 2 provinces, and we did it very successfully. We trained them on an NQF registered qualification on how to on early childhood development skills, which means how to open and run a creche. We also trained 50 women on being creche assistants. All these women were trained on full qualifications and are now either employed in creches or are running their own creches.
And you say that there is an initiative to add a lot more tech into the future sort of programs that you're going to involve in those areas. What sort of tech are we talking about?
In this case, we want to do mobile learning.
Yeah.
We've realized that technology we can have a bigger reach with technology, and I think access to learning is much easier. The women would have it at their fingertips. They can learn when they are able to. They can have access to learning on a continuous basis for reinforcement. I think with us, mobile learning is going to reach as many people as we can possibly can. So hence we've decided to use cell phones, to do our training.
Which areas
rural areas have cell phones.
Which areas are you involved in, Vimla? And maybe as a parting shot, because we're running out of time, what sort of help would you be looking for from the communities out there and maybe somebody that's listening to us now?
We want to train women nationally. And we would love to train more than 1,956 because we have thousands and thousands of women in the rural areas that need help. We would love funding. I mean, we do have funding for 1,956, but we would love additional funding so that we are able to train more women. So any help in that respect would be gratefully accepted. But we would also love resources. There are resources that these women need. For example, cell phones, the ability to access internet. So things like that, where the cell phone companies can come in. We need resources. We need internet infrastructure. We need community centers to assist. We need schools, if they can, to give us premises where we can do incubation programs for the new startups. So whoever can, see or assist in any way, it would be really, really greatly appreciated.
Where are you focused on right now? I know that your envisioned footprint is nationally, but where are you currently working at the moment, Vimala?
In Gauteng.
Okay.
Gauteng, in Mpumalanga, Northwest, and Limpopo.
And in Limpopo. And what are some of the communities in Gauteng that you're working in? We're still busy with the recruitment. The project has just started, so we're still busy with recruitment. Yeah. And we're using community radio stations. We're using advertisements, and there are huge databases that government has of women that are unemployed in the rural areas who are looking for work. So we're accessing all of that and now focusing on the women who have indicated a need for this. And from there, it will have, we'll have a ripple effect into the community. All right. Well, our line is getting pretty bad. Give me a contact number or contact that people can use to get in touch with you, Vimala.
Okay, they can email me at vimala@sale-edu.net, And we can also be found, our telephone number can be found on our website, which is www.sale-edu.co.za.
Ms. Vimala Ariyan, thank you very much. Vimala Ariyan is Managing Director of SAIL, Southern African Institute of Learning. It's 11